All right, guys. Coach Burgess today from Bridgton Academy. Going to talk a little bit about tackling. He's one of the guys that goes around and does the USA tackle certification thing. We had a pretty good clinic planned up for March that we're going to recreate as best we can here today. So bear with me on the tech stuff. I'm working on it pretty good here. Hopefully, Coach is going to be able to share his huddle presentation and speak to you guys at the same time. And if you have questions, throw them up in the chat, and we'll make sure we get to them. And then at the end, we can kind of open it up and let everybody get on and ask a few more if they need to. But if you have questions that come up during the presentation, just throw them in the chat, and I'll make sure Coach can get them. So, Coach, I'm going to take my camera out of here and then let you go, I think.
Great.
All right, Coach, you're on.
All right, thanks, Mike, and thank you for all the work you're doing, Mike, pulling this together. This has not happened easily, and your efforts are certainly appreciated, and you're doing a heck of a job despite whatever hackers are doing to us and things like that. Gentlemen, I think it's really exciting that you guys are logging in and doing this stuff. I've been sniffing around some other online things we've going along, and this time has been real interesting to learn, and I always learn something new when I'm teaching. So please pop questions in there every now and then. Those of you who know me and remember where I come from and who I come from, I'm going to share the old man, Coach Burgess up in Gardner, that I did a video Zoom football clinic, and he will love it. He always enjoyed technology and teaching, but he certainly liked the good old-fashioned tackle and a pancake block to boot. So that's a tip of the hat to him and where I come from. So I'm going to share the screen now, and hopefully you'll get the huddle presentation up here, and everyone can see that. Coach Hath, you want to give me a thumbs up or some sort of indicator that you guys can see that?
I think you can hear me. That looks good, Coach.
Yep, I'm going to let it run. So there's contact info. We'll skip over that because that's unexciting. But some of the stuff that we about national level is why this is going on. The research comes from Project Play. They want to have fun. They want to make friends, improve skills. Number 9 out of 10 reasons kids play is win. I think that's always an interesting thing when we talk about youth sports. More fun. They are more fun in the survey from Project Play, trying their best. Coaches treating players with respect, playing time, and teamwork and camaraderie. So a lot of stuff we talk about a lot of times, but there it is, and it's been researched, and folks are biting into that a whole lot more. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through some drill design stuff and a number of different things. And this first slide is about how we set up our drills, and I think it's a real easy way to evaluate what we're doing, particularly at the youth level. And even I use it at times, and when we're doing stuff, I go, why am I doing this? And if I answer yes to some of these questions, it doesn't mean I'm not going to do the drill. It just means that it could be a high risk drill, and I had a question: what am I doing? If it's not position specific or scheme specific to our defense, if it's one defender versus 3 offensive guys, why would I do that? What situation in a game does that occur? It does happen, but not necessarily something we need to practice a whole lot. Does a rep last longer than 8 seconds? Those of us who know the whole 7-second time frame for a play, and I think it's even getting faster now as we look to get more plays done. But does a rep last longer than 8 seconds? Are you starting with your players more than 5 yards apart? All that sort of stuff. Obstructive equipment, chutes and tires and all that sort of stuff. It has a purpose to chutes keep guys low. Obstructive equipment like bags and tires and hurdles make guys move their feet better. But why are you? If it's a yes, remember it's a high risk drill. Remember to have a reason for why you're doing it. Other than that's what we did once upon a time. Does it have limited options? And this is a fun one, because what does this last one mean here? Does it have limited options? Run or pass only. So here's the group work part of practice, where we're going to do 7-on-7 or inside run. And that inside linebacker during inside run, he loves it because he gets to fill a gap every single time. He doesn't have to take a read step, key step, or anything. He's just going to go blow a gap. So it becomes less game-like and more, we're just going to go in here and run roughshod over the offense, or vice versa. The offense is going to run roughshod over the defense. Pascal, similar deal. You have to, you limit the kid's ability or necessity to read their keys very often. So just beware. And this is not a don't do it chart. Remember that. It's just remember it's a high risk drill, and ask yourself, if you answer yes to one of these questions, have the answer why I'm doing that drill. I think it's kind of it's an interesting tool we've picked up over the years and been helpful. So anyhow. And in drills, I think this has been one of the most helpful things to have clarity on this, and this comes right out of the USA Football textbook. And I believe someone correct me if I'm wrong, but is the MPA asking you to stay within a certain number of minutes for contact and live, and basically live and thud over here on the right hand side of the screen? I'm sure, I know that the college level is, we do a little bit at what we're doing. In the USA Football practice planning app, they have a really good tool to plug that right in the time frames. That actually works really well. I don't have it in this presentation, but it works really well. We defined it out here for you. And remember, thud is considered a full contact deal because it goes to that competition piece. I think this control level here, so air and bags are pretty common. Control here is one of the places where you can get a lot of work done, because you can put a kid in a position where he's successful, or put him in the right body posture, and then see if he can complete the task. And very often that is like the fit, like in your blocking progression. You do a lot of this in your blocking progressions, but we don't do it a whole lot in tackling. But we're getting to that point. So I think control, you can get a lot of work done there, and it can be a great teaching tool. That's why I've got the correction heavy bit in there, and the speeds can vary and all sorts of stuff. So bags, great confidence developer and things like that. So keep plugging along. These fundamental terms, these are the heads up football fundamental terms, breaking down is the body position, feet squeeze, sink, and hands. I got some videos for this stuff in a little bit. Swooping your feet. We've gotten away from the heavy duty. You got to change your language deal. If you buzz your feet, or you fire your feet, or you shimmy your feet, that's fine. No one, but the term that we tend to use is swoop more often than not. That hip position. So the breakdown, the shimmy, buzz, swoop, as all that stuff. When you're approaching the ball carrier, the hip position is that moment right before, in the 18 to 12 inches to 6 inches right before you make contact. When you get that near foot up and that near shoulder, the cue stepping in the hole is a good term sometimes. I freeze them. So I'll have them break down, swoop, and I'll have them, and I'll call hit, and I'll try to freeze them. You'll see in the video, they do some do better than that at others. And then shooting the hips is a power type of thing. We do that on a shield, a half round, or an agile bag. I've got a video of the guys doing it single footed, little adaptation of that whole deal here in a little bit. I'll show you. We're ripping and wrapping arms. Clamp is a term that's always been around. Grab anything. We don't get into the whole pulling it down. We get into sinking it and pulling it all as closely as we possibly can. More of the grappling and wrestling stuff. There's a lot of grappling stuff coming out these days, and combatives. Coach Rotzko and I talked about this at one of the clinics earlier this spring. It's the combatives course a lot of us took as phys ed majors once upon a time. All that stuff is coming back around, and we're teaching it in football these days, which is pretty interesting. And then no one's ever said you shouldn't finish a tackle. You always should do that, because you got to get the bottom line is getting the guy to the ground. We do this. So one of the things I think is good to be able to do is to do this. We do calisthenics in a grid. And when I've done large groups of kids, I've done it in a grid so that they are able to you can teach a lot of kids in one setting. And so this is a half a dozen or 7 guys or whatever I dragged out before spring break. And the snowbanks were pretty good at Bridgton in February. And they're going to do a couple of these things. And I've got my notes should pop right up on screen today. Coach, those notes showing up there for you guys? Coach Half? Yeah, I think
you got to go. Yep, it's in there, Coach. You got it. It's awesome. Looks great.
Awesome. So, there you go. So feet under the armpits, squeeze the shoulders back, and that's good stuff there. So I march them right on through it. Sink, bend at the knees and the ankles. They get all that sort of stuff right there. That's it. And the hands, put them wherever you want. We prefer relaxed, loose hands in front. Once upon a time, I was taught to put them on my thigh boards and to deliver a blow there, but we keep them down and now they're a little closer to the object. So that's just a simple deal. And right from we would go for cows. When we install this in camp, we go for cows to that breakdown position. And now we're going to do a little bit of, I'm having some local Wi-Fi issues. There we go. These guys should be swooping down the bag here in a second. We're just hitting, I don't know where the swoop guys went. They're going to swoop down the bag a minute and freezing the hip. They should. Yeah, so these guys are going to swoop down, and this is where they try to freeze them. And you see those guys all shuffled. Not a good rep, too many steps, and most of them were shuffles. They're all off the bag. I probably didn't teach them well. That's my fault. The next group does a little bit better. It's the end of basketball season in North Bridgton. So here we go. There's a good one right here. This kid's feet are pretty good. This kid's feet are not good. He's way too spread out, and this kid continued to shuffle over here on the left side of the screen. So they're getting a little bit better. Yeah. This last group ends up, and I have to demo a little bit. That's not bad there. So that's just a way to do it on the bag. This is the single leg swoop. So, shoot. So these guys normally would start with both knees on the ground. And one of the differences right here, this kid's foot and this kid's foot, the red sneaker is way better than the black sneaker because he's got his laces in the ground and this guy's digging in with his toes. You want the top of their shoe on the ground still. That way they have to use their left leg. These guys don't do a great job. This is new. They haven't done it in a long time. But this is translation from single leg squats and weight room stuff right straight to the field. You can see that as they go. The irony of this, and I'll tell you, this is technician versus athlete. Kids coming off an injury here. This is not, but he's a kid for us. This dude out here in the end, he's a scholarship defensive end. Their rep is hysterical because the O-lineman does it the best. He's afraid. This kid's he's still coiled here where he's bent up in his hips. This kid's got the best extension out of the group. So O-linemen still rule the world, no matter how much we want to tackle. So that's a fun way to change up that drill a little bit from doing it with 2 legs. This rip horizontal drill is pretty standard, been around for a while, works pretty good to get the vertical uppercuts and the clamping going on. These guys are screwing around because the O-lineman, he hasn't tackled in. He holds good, but he doesn't tackle a whole lot. So get a defender in there, and this is going to happen. You can't lose your mind. That's a 19-year-old, not a 9-year-old, playing around with the bag. And again, my fault. I got to coach him up not to do that. We get it squared away later on. Another rep here that looks pretty decent. Those guys are doing all right with it. Remember, those guys have a tendency to want to run horizontally. They should go up. All their energy should go up. If you're getting a 5-yard run out of it, they don't necessarily have to do that. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for them to go vertically with it. Now this is basically the same drill, but we've turned the bag over, and the one of the issues that you get, the kids go from bringing their hands up to lobster clawing it, and you want to make sure that they don't. I had to sneak a demo in there real quick just to make, because I was feeling bad about how I was coaching, so I had to make sure I got some good stuff in there. That's a pretty good rep right there out of those guys. Just an easy, and this is the progression of how we teach it. We'll go all those fundamental things, and right to this point, we're still in the grid. We've condensed it into lines, and it works pretty well. It's a good rep here by this fellow here. He does a decent job coming right through, and it's easy. We just get a lot of work done in a short period of time. So now we've gone through all those fundamental steps. So this is the progression in the video. So this would be the very last thing. We're going to put it all together versus a vertical bag. He's attacking. He's got long running steps here. So he's pursuing to the ball. He breaks down and swoops. He gets his hit steps a little bit long, but both of them are actually. But it's with the correct shoulder and the correct foot. And he comes through and he does a nice job finishing up. That's a pretty decent job with the fundamentals. Any questions about the fundamentals? And Hath, I can't see the question mark thing right now, or the chat function. So if there are questions, just somehow flag me down and I'll stop.
We got nothing in there yet, Coach.
All right, good.
But when we do, I'll chime in and let you know for sure. Awesome,
thank you. So this is some game video of those fundamentals with some straight into the game versus some of the best competition. We see these they prep down in Newport, Rhode Island, in their triple option, and this is a defensive end who's going to come off the ball with a great breakdown position, and his body position and his technique has allowed him to redirect, which I think is pretty wild, because you can see, I know there's a triple option or two guy watching today. So as they run their triple option here, everyone thinks the fullback's got the ball, but he does not. The quarterback has it. And so he's able to redirect and make a play. I can move this along. This is, maybe puts a long tag at the end of theirs. And in the end zone shot, it's even more better to see this kid do this. It's pretty slick. And you'll notice even in his body position when he comes in, there he is right there. There's Nate. And he's going to come in and he's really well bent, but he's a wee bit on his heels here. You can see his feet right in here. He's a little bit on his heels. You can tell, but it's okay. He's 2.5 yards, 3 yards in the backfield. We don't want him over pursuing anyhow, but he's in that good body position right there. So as he redirects, he's able to make the play, and it works out really well for us before things get too crazy down in Rhode Island. So, oops, let me get that out of the way. So, and the cameraman was chasing the fullback. You can see that. So, so that's a good way for that sort of to play itself out. So as we talk, so this is kind of where we start transitioning a little bit into. There's a cornerback underneath the text box here is going to show you one of those basic form tackles on the perimeter that's got some real good technique. He does a great job reading the swing pass here, and this cornerback is probably 155 pounds soaking wet, and that's a college kid down in Connecticut somewhere, and he's able to square that kid up and drop him for a 0 gain on the perimeter. This is a good end zone shot of it. They're out here to the left-hand side of the screen. And Miles is good at coming off of his key, his body position, his technique. You can see him in squat technique. This kid's nice and tall. And he's able to make that play. And then the rest of the crowd comes roaring in. This is a good example of our scheme and our technique working together. I highlight this is an inside backer who would play a little bit deep. This is safety we've screwed down in the box. And they're going to make a play over here to the wide side of the field. There's some interesting good and bad in this clip. So these guys, his primary pass responsibility is this cat, because we've got just the way our scheme runs. He's got number 4 to his side, man to man if he goes. the safety's in the box to help with run support, and watch, and this linebacker's got the hole. So they're all kind of headed out there. The linebacker's out here, he's pursuing his guy, but he's going to over pursue because he's got secondary contain. This the defensive end's the primary contain guy. He's a secondary contain. So he's heading out there. So he's going to over pursue, and it's not the end of the world because these guys are coming from inside. And this is that backside safety who is going to come in here with some really good technique. And number 36 is going to come in with some bad technique, and you can see what happens as we roll this forward. 37 comes in, squares the dude up, and here's 36 with his head down and his straight knees and his bent torso, and he drills the safety in the back. I'll run that back for you because it's one of those ones you go, really? Did that really just happen? But we still make the tackle because we're clamping down on the kid pretty good. In the end zone, it's even wilder. So you can't see the safety's right here on the left-hand side of the screen. Here's the linebacker. Here's the dude who knocks the guy off the block. So the over pursue, the guy with contain who's actually covering the dude, you know, he forces the ball carrier back inside as a contained deal. That's scheme for us, and that's okay. There's lots of white shirts inside to tackle the dude. Here comes the safety coming in with his secondary run support deal. He's going to make a play. And his technique is good. His near foot's up. He's made contact with his shoulder. And here's 36 rolling in with his head down and his knees straight, and he misses the ball carrier and hits his teammate. Good kids, but not great technique there. I'll just let the perimeter thing run here. So I think on that, yeah. So anyhow, so that's kind of how that works from a fundamental standpoint. An additional fundamental term that's getting thrown around now, and we use the term pursuit for the longest time. Tracking has become a buzzword, a catchword, whatever you want to call it. One of the things I picked up actually just recently this spring and some stuff is forever and a day we've talked about trailing this guy and not, force him not to cut back and all that sort of stuff. I think one of the favorite things I've heard recently about the defender and the ball carrier in this linear chase deal, tracking pursuit drill, is tell the defender to get the ball carrier where he's at. So tell him to run to where the guy is and tackle him so that because this guy is moving, because the ball carrier is moving, he'll have to meet him somewhere on that line. And the other thing is tell the ball carrier to just win the race. Tell him to just win the race and tell the defender not to let him win the race. And he gets to win by getting to him and tagging off. But pursuit defined by scheme, near shoulder, near hip, closing space between the ball carrier and the defender and match their speed. So as that shows up on a video, I've got some practice video here. This is what it would look like so if we line up in a grid, we'd have two groups face each other. This third one here is kind of a misnomer. Don't worry about the third line there. But if you had two lines, they'd be facing each other this way and this way, and then they run in that direction. I'm going to show you a way that we introduce this. It's not pursuit; it's just kind of running. But I'll show you that in a minute once we get through it. It'll make a little bit more sense. These guys are doing the traditional tracking drill, and this is back in February. We go right from the grid to that. Sometimes they do the speed variation from the offensive guy. We're going to just tell them to win it now, because sometimes it just gets too much like a game out here, and they get to horsing around. But tell the defender to get the back hip of the ball and under control. This kid does a pretty good job. The fact that he has to reach a little bit like that is okay. I don't hate that. Because this is what here's my favorite O-line guy, and this is what it looks like in a tracking drill. This guy ends up over pursuing because the offensive lineman is showing off all his athletic ability. So the wide receiver, he's like he's running a ladder or something. The lineman catches him. These guys are a couple defenders, do a decent job, but it still just looks too herky-jerky. Just tell them to run. So if I had my druthers, I would do this drill first before I did the tracking drill. And it's not in the presentation in the right order. I apologize for that. But this, I think you move smoothly from your grid right to this. And with younger kids particularly, I think teaching them this type of movement and running skill and change of speed skill and change of length of stride is important, because when their hips are high, they're going to run with long steps. And when their hips are low, we'll see here in a second, they're going to run with low step. They can swoop or shimmy or whatever their feet. They're going to shorten their steps. And I'm giving verbal and physical and visual cues while I do this. My hands are here, all right? And I'm going to bring them up when I want them to run, and I'll bring them down when I don't want them to. Again, I prefer this before the tracking drill. So they're doing it here, and I'm giving them big, easy to read signals as they go along here, and it's a real good way to get those guys to understand what we're talking about. Now I'm going to do it without the hand signals. I'm going to be the ball carrier, so they're going to watch, watch my hips, and I'm probably saying something because I have a hard time keeping my mouth shut, but they're just watching my hips, because that's, as tacklers, that's what we want them to watch, because the hips don't lie, right? If the running back's hips sink, he's probably going to change direction. If he's going to run long and fast, his hips are going to be high. So they're just watching me, and then I give them a freeze. So I told them beforehand I wanted them to freeze in a directional hip position. The guy in the middle got it. The guy on the left didn't. The guy on the right probably got most of it. That was a good rep right there. So that's, this is pretty easy to do. One coach could do this with the entire group of guys in a grid. You could see how that would work. And this is a slide with just the installation progression in a grid. This is the blue thing is just be a agility bag, a shield. It could be a bag of pennies or something like that. You can shoot. You can rip the horizontal bag. You can't rip I guess you couldn't do that. I guess you couldn't tackle a bag of pennies. You could, but shoot and rip the vertical bag. So this is the progression. We shoot 2 knees, then we do 1 knee, then you rip the horizontal bag, then you rip the vertical bag, and then we get into swooping swooping the bag and getting in the hip position, and then we put the whole thing together. Those are kind of the phases of the installation, if you will, kind of a summary of it all. Now we're going to get into the roll tackle, and it's very similar to the installation. So we would do this in an installation as well. Vertical bag with a knee up and 1 foot in the ground, and you're going to roll on the contact shoulder onto the non-contact shoulder. There's some guys are saying it's just a single leg takedown. Well, it's not entirely that way, but it's a good analogy to use. But make sure you continue to coach it from a football standpoint. And they want to track bag into some walking with the bag, jogging and running, and then we put the whole thing together. I've got some video of this coming up here in a second. This is a precursor installation deal. All the fundamentals are the same, the breakdown, the swoop, the hip position, all that stuff happens. This is just a different contact mechanism, and I'm going to tackle differently. So here we are. We've done breakdown, we've done swoop, we've gotten to a hip position. So this young man is in the hip position to perform a roll tackle. So he does a good job rolling his non-contact shoulder. The biggest mistake that you see are guys rolling at that contact shoulder, but Gideon does a good job here. One of the key things also, I tell these guys they need to cinch, they do an ab crunch, condense their entire body, their entire frame. And one of the things that we tell our guys at Bridgton is, cinch yourself up like this, because if you don't, you'll get dragged, and you don't want to be in somebody else's highlight video getting dragged across the field. Getting the good offensive lineman, he follows directions real well. If the in here, they're 2 feet away, so now we've moved them off the bag a little bit. So you do it with 1 foot right on the bag, and now they have to take a step. And watch a couple of these guys don't take good steps. The guy closest to us does. He takes a good step as I roll it forward. He's taking a step, but you can see the number 2 guy here. He does not. He steps with the wrong foot. And they're rolling to their off shoulder. They're doing a good job. So that's with a foot on the ground, 1 step away. Now we're a couple steps away. It's a left shoulder tackle. So they have to swoop in at the bag a little bit. So you see they're taking their swoop steps, and their near foot's still up. And here's one of the things, and I'm going to pause it right about here. As you look at this dude's head, in this dude's head. Now, probably get in trouble with some of my mentors and former coaches, but this kid's head's up and I like it. It's good. He can see the target. There's 100 reasons for him to have his head up. This kid's head's down. Because of the nature of this technique, he's not as likely to smash his head or hurt himself because his head's behind the ball carrier, and able to but he's unable. So his head will be safe, but he's not gonna be able to see the ball carrier. So I think that's part of the problem. That's as much of an issue as it is the safety part of it. So this is better. This is not good, but it's not the end of the world. He's probably still going to make the tackle, but he's more likely to miss it with his head down. So yeah, that's with the swoop. And now we're just going to, I would back him away a little bit even further, but now we're just dragging the bag. I think one of the best variations of this drill I've ever seen, particularly if you don't have a bunch of equipment, is to get like 3 or 4 pool noodles, use a couple bits of duct tape or whatever, tape them together to make basically what's an 8-inch diameter body, if you will, put a string on it or a piece of rope. Still do this drill identically, getting dragged by a teammate, and then the defender chasing down and getting a roll tackling. These are all pretty decent, but the pool noodle thing, those are pretty cheap and durable. The first kid here all the way to the right, he stops running. Shouldn't have to do that. The kid in the middle, he starts to kind of slides into it instead of accelerating into it. They both roll the right direction, which is good. And the last dude here, he's just kind of and there's much, it's a good way to do it. We do that drill regularly. It's part of our regular plan, one of our regular tackling stations, in a way that one of the ways we introduce the roll tackle.
Coach, we have a question from the chat from Coach Roscoe. He's asking, do you do a tackling circuit in the season? If so, how many stations? Or just how do you incorporate your tackling drills into what do you do, and what are some of your favorites?
Yeah, I've got a bunch of those, and they're a little bit further on in this. I copied and pasted some right out of the practice plan in here, Coach, and I'll get to those in just a sec. I'm almost done with my winter ball videos. We'll skip right ahead to there in a sec.
All right, thanks, Coach.
Yep. So this is the thigh and drive bit here. Same business, and they're going to do, and this is pretty quick, and this is just the thigh and drive business. They're going to have a correct step, thigh, they're going to cinch here, and they're going to lift and bring that guy forward. It's very similar to the form tackle, but with a little lower aiming point. And this is us just having a little bit of fun with a wide receiver here. And I told them, if you can get low enough on this cat and get a hold of the hamstrings, you can lift them off their feet and they won't really like it, but we're having a little bit of fun. We're getting tired. But anyhow, on to the circuit stuff here. So those are the tackling types, and we work on them in the circuits. And Coach Rotzko, I'm going to get into the 2-man vice and the single-man bit here for a couple minutes, and then I'll get to the circuit stuff. It's at the end of this thing. So this is the drill where these 2 guys are going to come in and they're going to work on these 2 defenders tackle 1 bag, and they fire their feet. They come in all the same fundamentals, and I freeze them right there. Then we back them out, and we're running low guys this day. So I had video and 2 guys doing that. And what you can do is you can bring them back and forth and do this in a continuous motion drill. Then you can back them out and bring them back in again. This is the next version of it. This is a 3-man version of it. Defender, O-lineman, and a ball carrier. All the fundamentals remain the same. But here it is. This defender's engaged. And there's the ball carrier here. And we work on this. We do this as part of our circuits. This is something that the D-line and the linebackers will do more often than the perimeter guys. But we have the perimeter guys do this too, because every now and then they get blocked. But that's how that looks from that direction. This is a 2-man fit drill. So this is a single leg deal. Very often we'll tell them, this kid's cold. He's not doing a good job working with him. but that's that control level there. He should be making him work a little harder to work on the single arm deal. Here, I got our GA coach here doing a little bit of work here. You'll see he's going to hold him, and that kid's only going to make a one-arm deal. So this kid's making a one-arm tackle, and this kid's still making his form tackle. But because of their gap responsibilities, they know what they're doing. Again, that's scheme and technique working together. This is, again, down at Navy, this is a defensive end and a linebacker. This is that drill we just did in a game. This defensive end is getting held and blocked, and that linebacker's filling that gap and doing a heck of a job stopping the guy. The defensive end never even gets a wrap on the ball carrier. Come on. Uh-oh, what did I do? I hit too many buttons. The end zone shot of this is way more. Pardon me for that. All right, here we go. So this is the same guys here and here, in that same two-man drill. You can see how he's getting held. This is real deal stuff here for that defensive end. And there's the linebacker with his fit drill. And you can see that. And then it allows you to get the third guy in to do a little work there. So this would be some of the evaluation. And we're going to get into the circuit stuff now. Coach Rotzko, here we go. So this is something that's big out of USA football right now, the tackling, the 5 fights. You fight to track, you fight to prepare your body. This is where all those fundamentals, we just talked about the tracking a little bit. We talked about preparation in breaking down, swooping your feet, and getting in that hit position and then making contact, whether it be form tackle, roll tackle, or thigh and drive type of deal. Then you got to accelerate your feet and finish. This is an evaluation tool that's available through the folks at USA Football in 100% transparency. We don't do this on a regular basis. I got a little extra time on my hands right now. I might get in and do some of this just for my own experience and things like that. But we have not done a ton of it to this date, so I don't have a lot of experience with it. But I have. We do look at those things, and you can imagine how much time it would take. But once you get a system going, I think it goes pretty good. But that's a tool from USA Football that you can get. So here we go. Let's get to the circuit. Oh, oops. This is one visual distraction drill. Sorry, I got a couple of advanced things here. An advanced drill, this VDA drill here. And Coach Rotzko, we saw some other versions of this down in Rhode Island. These guys are going to move left and right, and I'm going to tell one of the ball carriers to come forward, and this guy's going to go tackle him. So that's another drill that you can do, these are all drills that you can put into your circuits as you go. This would be and this guy is, he's going to hit with the wrong shoulder. Got to coach him up. Yeah. So that's that. So these guys are given a cue to move left and right. Then I tell one of the ball carriers to come forward, and the defender goes and makes a tackle. Boom. This is fit and refit drill. He's going to come up, form fit on the bag, back off, come up, form fit on the bag, back off, come up, work on his technique and form fit on the bag. I'm going to skip those because they were demo type things. Circuits, here we go. Here you go, Coach Rotzko. We design them. We try to, we are fortunate. We usually get at least 3 to 4 stations. When it's warm out, we make one of the stations water. But I try to vary the levels of contact between air, bags, live, thud, and control. If there are fewer stations, we'll either have one or we usually will only have either one live or one thud. So those are the 2 full contact levels. The other, so if we had 4, we'd eliminate one of those. If we had 3, we'd probably eliminate air most likely and have either bags, control, and live or thud. But we use them. I set them up by level of contact, and then what we're looking to get done that particular day. These are some circuits right out of practice plan. The tracking one, very often if it's tag, it's either air or control with those guys. Using the wheel. The wheel is a great tool for circuits because it's quick. That gets bag level of contact. we use our two-man sled regularly for, it's great for running your feet through a tackle. You can put two guys on it. They have to hit it with, they both have to vice the sled. It's the same deal you'd use if you were using it with two offensive linemen. And they have to get in, they have to wrap their arms around it, but it's great. You do that too. Put them from a hip position right into it, or you can have them approach it and hit it at the same time. Two-man sled is great for a lot of those things. Do that regularly with those guys. We don't have a practice film from the fall, so I don't have anything like that. Coach Rotzko, you asked about season stuff. So this was week 1, cut right out of the practice plan. We did not have a scrimmage prior to our first week. So this was probably a Tuesday or a Wednesday during the week. Tackle 1 was a wrap tackling drill. It was thud. The head ball coach got to run that one. I ran a 5-yard box with a live tackle in it. It was just a directional type of deal, right, left, and one where a guy could make a move. It was predetermined which shoulder you were going to tackle with. I could draw that up if we wanted to, but that was just a live drill. And then we did some bag drill, or a third station with a bag drill on that particular day. We only had 3 defensive coaches at practice that day, so that was how that went. That's week 1 of the season. So that's game week with no scrimmage prior to it. Here we are, week 3. This is rivalry. We're going to go play the triple option guys. So we were tracking hips to stay under control, and we're wrapping those guys up. We were rolling the bags at another station, and then we had a one-man sled was our live whoop-de-doop. Let's get excited and beat the heck out of something without hurting ourselves. So we're fortunate we also have a one-man tackling sled, and that is pretty good because the defender can tee off on the thing and get all hyped up and whatever. And if he gets hurt by the sled, we're in big trouble. But anyhow, so those are 3 cut right out of the practice plan in week 3. And then we're getting down towards the end of the season, coach. And here's a 3-man tackling circuit, or a 3-station tackling circuit rather, in week 8 of a 10-week station. Tackling the crowd, the sled, bag drag roll. We work a lot. That drill seems to work good for us, so we're doing that again. And then and we put the tackle wheel in. So that's 3 stations without a live contact piece in there for those guys. In week 8, backing off of the live and thud level to full contact level stuff. So that's right.
Coach, I get a question from Coach Morin. He's asking, do you have a circuit by position, or kind of do your tackling by position because of the difference in the space a player might tackle in? So like your DLs versus your DBs.
Yeah, we do, and what we do is we adjust it. So if we're using if I'm doing a 5-yard box here with the linebackers, will say we might stretch that out to 7 or 8. Probably won't. I don't go to 10 with the D-backs. You can. It's fine. It's not the end of the world, but that's an awful lot of space. And in true reality, they rarely in a 10-yard box with a guy. They've got a pursuit angle on them or something like that. But we would stretch it out based on position. We do move these guys around by position. So group 1 is the D-line, group 2 would be the linebackers, and let's say group 3 is the secondary, and they move from coach to coach. Now, this is the head coach, that's me, and that's our veteran D-line guy. So we adjust our drills with the group that comes to us, but I certainly would do that if we were doing more stations. If we had bigger position groups, when you get 12 linebackers and 15 D linemen and 22, D-backs, you can run a circuit within your position group and adjust. But we just adjust ours by whoever's standing in front of us. Does that answer the question, I hope?
Thanks, Coach.
Oops. Yeah, those are the slides and the videos.
If you guys have some other questions for Coach and you want to throw them up in the chat, we can do kind of a Q&A here. I'll kind of work on my end too on maybe being able to get some of you up on, or at least unmuted so you can chime in. But if you want to throw them up on the chat, throw them up and we'll go from there. Coach, certainly appreciate you you doing this. This is the first one that we did with a screen share, so I was a little anxious on how this was going to work out, especially since I got another one at 2:30 with Coach McLeod. But it's awesome that you agreed to do this. Certainly appreciate your expertise.
Yeah, no problem. And Mike, like I said with you earlier, and whoever's listening now, grab that contact information. One of the things that USA Football is backed off of are the live clinics for youth coaches. So all the youth coaching certifications are going to be online. But if you want someone to come work with the youth coaches in your area, whether it be by league or town or whatever, you know, I got some time on my hands, and I'm willing and able to come out and do this, because if I don't, if I don't come out and teach kids how to play and coaches how to coach, I don't have kids coming to Bridgton Academy. And it's, there's the livelihood part of it for me, but there's also the love of the game and the love of teaching it and coaching it to both young people and people who aren't as young as Coach Moore. So I had to get you, Coach.
I knew that. I knew that was coming.
But no, seriously, talk to your youth presidents or whomever, and those league presidents. If it's a league thing or a local team thing, I don't need to do 900 of them, but and I'm willing to travel. I got my own agility bag out in the shed. I almost brought it inside.
Hey, Coach, quick question about the head placement.
Yeah.
What are some of your coaching points as far as where are you saying face mask on the ball, head across the front? What do we?
No, so I don't even talk about it. I talk about making contact. I talk about making contact with your near foot and your near shoulder. So when we get to that hit position, we tell them to basically step with that near foot, almost like you would if you're blocking a guy. You get that near foot in there and you'd make contact with that near shoulder. And so here's what I tell a kid: if you're running to your left, you're probably going to make contact with your left shoulder. If you're running to your right, you're probably going to make contact with your right shoulder, just because of the angle that you're going at. And that way we don't get into head across the bow or that sort of stuff anymore. Because with the change in if the technique and the technique and the scheme are working together, there's no need to do that. Because if you think about it, if I'm going this way as a ball carrier and the other, as a defender, and they're both chasing me and they're going to tackle my head, if their heads went across in front, they would clunk each other. Like that, I showed you that linebacker knocking the safety off the ball.
Yep.
So if that linebacker had come in and thinking he's going to tackle that guy with his left shoulder instead of his right, he wouldn't have hit that safety. So it works from our scheme and our technique work together. And we tell those guys, if you're chasing the guy to your right, tackle him with your right shoulder. Chasing the guy to your left, tackle him with your left shoulder. I rarely do I talk about where to put your head when you're making a tackle. I talk about where your foot is, where your shoulder is, where your hips are, all that stuff. And then the only correction I make is if a kid does do it with his wrong shoulder, I don't get real worked up on it. Hey, wouldn't that have been easier if you just made it with the near foot and near shoulder? He goes, oh yeah, it would have been.
Good point.
Anybody else got any questions out there for Coach? All right, Coach. I think we might be good here. That was awesome, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. That was great, Mike. Great job getting this stuff going. I think Munzing's got someone chasing his heels in the technology department now, doesn't he?
I don't know about that, man. I'm working at my maximum right now with this stuff. So but we're figuring out along the way, man. I'm learning, that's for sure. Good
luck this fall, everybody. Stay safe and clean through this strange time that we got going on right now. And I'll close with this, Mike, and sign off. I think football in August and September is going to be what brings everybody back together, and I can't wait for it to happen. And I look forward to having guys like you make that happen for Maine.
Absolutely. All right, guys, I'm going to close this thing down. I got Coach McLeod coming on at 2:30. He's going to talk screen game, if anybody wants to check that out. And then I've got Coach Plant and his OOB staff coming on tonight to talk a little bit about transitioning to 8-man. I'll email everybody in the morning. If you're not on our email chain, if you just shoot me an email, it's michael.hathaway@msad52.org, or you can message me on Twitter at CoachHath19. I can add you to the contact list so you get the email every morning that says what the schedule for the day is. But the plan is Monday through Friday to offer 2 or 3 clinics a day for the foreseeable future. I got Coach Kiesel coming in next week on Monday, and Coach Charlton's going to come in from UMaine on Monday too. We got a lot of college guys we're lining up. Coach Coop's on next week, but bunch of guys. So everybody's signing up to do some of these. So it's going to be awesome. Appreciate you guys coming in, Coach. Appreciate you again, and maybe I'll see some of you guys at 2:30.